Hello and welcome to the first video of this course. In this video we'll talk about databases, their advantages and their disadvantages. So first of all, let's talk about data. What is data? We hear the term data every time and some people mix up between data and information. Are they the same? Let's see. So data is defined as facts concerning objects and events that could be recorded and stored on a computer media. Another definition would be stored representations of objects and events that have meaning and importance in the user's environment. Now, what do we mean by user's environment? Suppose that we are looking at data for a university. So in that case, what has important to that environment might be students, courses, and let's say teachers. But if our environment is a healthcare system, we don't care about students, we don't care about courses or teachers. So in the first case, those made sense or had some importance in the user's environment, but on the other example, they didn't. So some examples would be sales company data containing customers' contact info and so on, or healthcare data, patients' medications, and so on, or as we said, the university example or school example. So, data has become a strategic asset for organizations like healthcare, business, government, education, and so on. Now, the rapid growth in technology results in loss of data. So, we will have lots of data to store. So, we need some kind of way to manage all of that data that we're getting. So the ways to store and manage data include data tables. Like the most popular example is spreadsheet, or some people refer to them as Excel sheet. And these fall under what we call a traditional file processing system, which we will talk about in more details. But what is the problem of a spreadsheet? Like an obvious problem with spreadsheets is the size of the data. And when we have multiple spreadsheets, then we'll have redundancy in the data. So some pieces of data may appear in more than one spreadsheet. This will make problems when we try to update some kind of info, when we try to make some kind of report. So if I'm counting something and I have the same data repeated over multiple spreadsheets, it's going to mess up my count. And when I'm searching for items, how would I know the latest version of those spreadsheets? So suppose that I have my employee information across multiple spreadsheets and then some of them are redundant. Then when I come in, how do I know the latest information? How do I know that this employee just joined the company and this is the latest spreadsheet, or this employee just left the company and this is the latest spreadsheet, and so on. So these are some problems with spreadsheets. Now let me talk briefly about information. Lots of people say data is information, information is data. Is that true? So we already defined data. So let's look, what is information then? So information is actually data, but it has been processed in a way to make sense. So to get some kind of knowledge out of that data. So in some sense, information is data, but data is not necessarily information. So information is processed data. So if we look at this, what is it? Is it information or data? So we have names, we have numbers. Now, can I get some knowledge out of this? What I see is names and numbers, but do I know, are those phone numbers? Are those IDs? Are those, what is this number actually? Now in this case, this is data because we don't have any information or any knowledge that we can clearly get out of this. How to transform this into information is to put it in some kind of context to make it make sense. So right now, if I look at this, okay, these are student names and these are their IDs, and I have some more data added to contribute to this piece of information. Now, is this data or information? If we look at this, I have marketing 15%, finance 10%, management 20%, and so on. And then I have some kind of chart that shows me the number of students in each one of those, um, let's say, majors. Now, this is called summarized data, which is a form of information because it's what we call the graphical information. Now, as long as we can get some kind of knowledge out of that data and we know exactly what context it's put on and what do we mean by this piece of data, then it's going to be information. Okay. We also have something that's called metadata. So it's basically the data that describes the properties or characteristics of end user data. So what do I mean by this? Let me look at this example. So it says, okay, I have data item that's called name, and that's called course, and then its type is alphanumeric, and then it's of length 50. It will have course ID and name, and the source is academic unit. If I look at the section, it says it's an integer. The length is 1, the minimum is 1, the maximum is 9. So if we look at this, it's kind of telling me what the data should be, but what's the content? No, it doesn't tell me. So it says, okay, if you have a course name, it's going to be alphanumeric, and the length of the course name is going to be 30 characters, and this part of the data is going to have the course ID and name, and it's going to come from academic unit, while if we have section, it's going to be a number, and it's going to be a singular digit ranging between 1 to 9, and it's going to contain the section number, and it's going to come from the registrar. So it is going to tell me information about the data, but it's not going to tell me the actual data. So metadata is data or information about our data. So it's going to tell me the structure of the data, and we will see later on why this is useful. Okay. So note that we are just describing the data. We are not providing the actual data. So if I say, will metadata include the actual data? The answer is no. So why do we need it? It's going to enable the database designers to understand what data exists and what the data means, and will distinguish between data items that will look similar at first glance, and will ultimately be able to design the database for the database, which is a part for the database designers, which is us in this case.